Hello and welcome to tonight's video. Better late than never. 15-18 patch came out. We're only covering teams that are still eligible for Worlds. The way these videos work, if you're new to the channel, so champions either buffed or nerfed based on what Riot has put in the patch notes. Adjusted champions, I get into the nitty gritty a bit to figure out if it is a buff or a nerf, and etc. But otherwise, simply a buff's a buff and nerf's a nerf. I don't care if it's placebo in your mind. That's not what this is about. This cross-references the patch with what players are playing in LOL Esports, what we may see on the Rift on 15-18. A buffed champion correlates with a player's champion pool when they've played it at least 4% of games over the last nearly 3 seasons, season 13, 14, and 15. A nerf is a champion that they've played at least 10% of games in season 15. And you may say those numbers are kind of odd, but the players on the board here, they are part of the minority groups that are attributed to those numbers. So, in top lane, we saw one buff, Jace. A few nerfs, but fringe nerfs like Aurora and Galio. No one's really playing Volibear, Zac, or Alawi once in a great while. But Jace has been buffed, and a lot of people play Jace. But there are about a dozen players that don't in the top lane. And that's what's notable about top lane is like players like Oscar, Mirwin, Weiser, Aja, Broken Blade, Bin, FNB, Driver, Zhao Zhu, Solo Kill, and Pun. Don't play a lot of Jace. Not like everybody else. Everybody else, at least 1 out of every 25 games. These players, anywhere from 1 out of 30 to even less than that. Maybe none at all. You notice a lot of LEC players on there, and it goes to say, oh, well, Western Jace, right? Also, the top lane, Aurora, nerf, affected Mirwin. Mirwin plays Aurora a lot. Nobody plays Aurora as much as Mirwin in the top lane. 10% of games for Koi. He was on that champion. In the jungle, there are about 7 champions affected, but only one relatively impactful to anybody's champion pool, and that is Inspired. He's played a Moo more than anybody else over the last nearly 3 seasons. 4% of his games. Everybody else, I mean, you may say, oh, that person played it a couple times, but not as often as Inspired. Briar was buffed. Talia Jungle was buffed because Talia Mid was nerfed and they want to push it towards the jungle. Other nerfs, I believe, were Kiana Jungle, Silas, Volibear, and Zac. Nobody really playing those champions very much. Some may play it sparingly, once or twice, but not enough to be 10% of games this season. Mid lane is where this patch really had its effect. 3 buffs. Cassiopeia, Wei, and then Jace. No one really plays Valkaz. And then the nerfs, Annie, Aurora, Azir, Galio, Talia. Somebody's, maybe Silas was, but no, because Silas, people would have been on the board for Silas. Somebody else was nerfed that nobody plays between Galio and Talia. But regardless, quite a few players affected by this. In the case of Cassiopeia, Quad plays it a shit ton because it is his OTP. 10% of his games in his, pretty much his career, but since 2023 in Tier 1 have been on Cassiopeia. Wei is played by 4 players quite often. Kadi of Vikings, 6% of games. Vladi of KC, Vikla of FearX, and Cream of Top Esports all play Wei more often than anyone else. Jace, more so a top lane pick. There are about 10 or so mid laners that play Jace a lot, but otherwise everybody else doesn't play it as much as these guys do. Poby, 11% of games, and that does include his games in 2023 with T1. Maple of PSG, Palafox of Shopify, Scout, JDG, Jojo of almost said Carmine Corp, Koi, Knight, Showmaker, Kadi, Vikla, Caps all play quite a bit of Jace, anywhere from 1 out of every 9 games to 1 out of every 25. Nobody else plays it as much as they do. Then we get the nerfs. So Annie, you might say everybody played Annie. Everybody played Aurora, Azir, Talia, Galio. Yes, but these are the outliers. These are the minorities within those champion pools. So Annie, Povey played at 21% of games so far in his career. Over 1 out of every 5, he plays Annie. So in a best of 5 scenario, there was a chance. Without this nerf, there was a healthy chance Annie was going to be picked by him, or it was going to be banned away, or picked by the other team. But regardless, he plays it often. Palafox 14%, Rookie 13, Caps 11, Romer of Pain Gaming, and Shanks, also big Annie enjoyers. After that, you have Aurora, being picked by Maple in 20% of his games over the last 2+ seasons. You may say Aurora hasn't even been around that long. Yeah, you're right. And it's still 20% of games this season. 1 out of every 5, he hasn't played all that much. Only summer. Myru, 14%. Xiaohu, 14%. Emo of Gam, Cream, Knight, Cotty, Dyer, all playing Aurora more than anybody else. Azir. So these players don't play Azir as much as everybody else. And that does not mean they don't play him at all, because everybody does play Azir to some degree, but these guys don't rely on it quite as much. BDD, Showmaker, Palafox. Scout, Cotty, Romer, Knight, Xiaohu, Caps. Dyer, Emo, Doinby. Not big Azir players over the last 2 seasons, and especially not this split. 5 players playing a lot of Galio. Chovy, it's his most played, shockingly enough. Dyer of Team Secret Whales, Faker, Doinby, Romer, all playing Galio enough to appear on the nerf list. Talia, played by a lot of players, but not these ones. Caps, Poby, Quid, Showmaker, Doinby, Chovy, Cream, Faker, Cotty, Myru, and Dyer. Right here. They all don't play Talia all that much. They may play it a bit, but don't play it much in 2015, 100 years ago. Bot lane, not all that affected by this patch. Like I said, this is mainly a mid lane affected patch as far as players that play champions that play. As far as pro players playing these champs, really only mid lane. Bot lane, Ashe was buffed, Yunara was nerfed, Rebello has played a shit ton of Yunara. 11% of his games. He's only played in summer. Yunara just came out, so he doesn't have the spring games to water down the champion pool. Ashe, though. These players don't play a lot of Ashe, and that does not mean that Ruler doesn't, because Ruler's played for a long time. He can play anything. But Ruler, not a big Ashe enjoyer. Eddie, Supa, Aiming, Gala, Bevoy, Karzi, Diable, Upset, Rebello, and Leave. All not playing a lot of Ashe. Everybody else playing it quite a bit, and it has been buffed. So these guys, unfortunately, maybe they'll play it now. Everybody else already was playing it over the last 2 seasons plus, and Ashe has, of course, been buffed and nerfed many times in that span, going in and out of the meta, not only in bot lane, but also in support, and that is where we go next. So, Ashe has been buffed, so maybe a support will pick it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a direct support buff for a support to be willing to do it. June, Zhuo, and Mako all play Ashe more than anybody else. At least 1 out of every 25 games. You may say XYZ player played a lot of Ashe the last 2 years, but not 1 out of every 25 games, who is still eligible for Worlds 2025. And in part, we do have to consider this as part of maybe Worlds 2025. Maybe these champions will not be touched again on the next patch, which will be the Worlds patch, I believe. And you must contemplate that and say, well, if Ashe isn't nerfed, Ashe has been buffed for Worlds, essentially. The mid lane meta, they're clearly working on it going into Worlds, so maybe the mid lane meta will shift, and we'll see a lot of interesting picks. I know people hate the thought, well, those are placebo. People may not do it. Yes, and people may just say, oh, that's nerfed, I'm not playing it, and not even try. So that whole notion goes down the shitter with that terrible take. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.